Hello, everyone. Welcome back to College Football Coast to Coast. We are breaking down Week 9, Tyler. We are deep in conference play. A lot going on throughout college football this year and so far this season. A lot of big moves. I mean, there's some stuff that we thought we wouldn't be talking about till the off season to get to. There's a lot of big games this weekend, especially in one particular conference. A lot of movement in the top 25 and teams moving their way up and down. I think we've gotten to the point where we've found a core group of teams that may be in there for the long haul and stake their claim in the playoff right now at this point in the season, and some surprises too. Um, so bear with me tonight. I am nursing my throat, so I may be in and out a little bit. Um, but I'll do my best here. So, Ty, let's get into right out the gate. Let's get into our rundown with our top 25 risers and fallers from last week in week 8. A lot of teams that should have won games ended up losing some games, keeping them really close. Vegas really went all out with this past weekend, and some of those lines that worked out in Vegas's favor. It looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Week 8 was just like a week of parity. You saw like five top 10 teams go down, especially with Miami and LSU falling. Those were two teams that we thought in the preseason were really for sure locks making the playoffs. And then you have a lot of coaching carousel news. You got Penn State already open, James Franklin. That's week old news, but we haven't recorded a show here since week 6. And then Florida just opened up even after they beat Mississippi State. They really pulled off the band-aid. That felt like it was a year too late, though. I felt like Billy Napier should have been gone last year. But I expect Auburn, especially with a loss this weekend in Fayetteville, they lose to Arkansas. That's probably going to be all she wrote for the Hugh Freeze era, and we'll see if we have any other big jobs. Opening. Could Brian Kelly out of LSU? I know it's a big buyout. However, if it really goes down south, then let's say if LSU finishes 7-5, because you gotta. It's not just all because of 7-5. It's because of how much money that you spent on this roster. It's 18 million. And you got to like say to the boosters, like, are the boosters really going to want to pay that money when Brian Kelly is just doing the same old thing? Wouldn't you just want to like spend the 53 million and get him out and then just go for a new coach? But however, that's all down the road. That's all hypotheticals. We'll see what LSU does. But yeah, it's been a lot of parity, and I definitely excited. I mean, seeing teams like Indiana and Georgia Tech in the top 10, like, and even Vandy too. So that's definitely great for college football. I think that NIL has really evened out the playing field here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's get into some of the coaching carousel and some of the teams that have surprised us. I guess at this point, and with the coaching carousel, I think we all know, and of course you referenced it briefly, and that being the Penn State job seems like the biggest job in the country out there. It's an A-list job. It's up there with Bama, LSU, uh, and Georgia, and some of those big schools like that. Notre Dame, Ohio State. It's in that grouping. Um, and it came to a point where it was time. Being one of the Penn State faithful, I would say that James Franklin did his job. He got the team back on track, put them back on the map. I mean, that was goal number one, and went far and above what I think anybody thought Penn State would do for the next 10 years. And it really turned out great. I mean, 12 years in State College. Nobody's going to come close to what Paterno did at Penn State as far as his years, 46 years of service there as the head coach, over 400 wins. I mean, Franklin's over 100 wins at Penn State, and it's a big feat for 12 years to have as many 10-win seasons as they had, a Big Ten championship, multiple playoff appearances, a semifinal appearance, could have been a national championship, and an appearance there as well, but fell short. But I mean, really, um, a lot of success has happened, and that school's back on the map for what he did for that school, coming from Vanderbilt. Um, and now it's somebody else's turn, and I think Pat Kraft kind of mentioned that, the AD. It's somebody else's turn to come in and take the ship and steer it in the right direction. And ultimately, they won a national championship. It's been 39 years. This is 40 years. This next national championship since Penn State's won it. which is way too long. Um, and I think they really want to compete now. Seeing as many Big Ten teams, you've had Michigan and Ohio State both win a national championship in the last few years, and Penn State wants to be a part of that group there. And so it was time to do that. And I don't think a lot of people understand the contract too much. Um, Franklin does have to go find a new job. I mean, I understand that people are like, well, $48.5 million is a lot of money. Yes, it is a lot of money, but I can assure you Penn State has plenty of money to buy out a $48 million contract. I mean, I think they could, and, and I know like Jimbo Fisher's buyout was huge, a number of years ago, but I mean, even for Penn State, that's not a big number. I mean, it's just that school's so big and there's so much money behind that school that, I mean, they could buy out anybody they wanted in the country if it's not working out. But they really believed in James Franklin for that long. So it says a lot about him as a person and who he was. But yeah, so I don't know what your thoughts are on it, especially the Penn State job and who the likely candidates are there, to take that A-list job.
Yeah, honestly, I went back to our week one show. We were previewing the show, going through each of our conferences. I literally said that if James Franklin doesn't make the playoff, that he's going to get canned. And that's honestly exactly what happened. I did not think it was going to happen this early, though, especially the way that the Oregon game went. I mean, I thought that they were just going to cruise all the way, like have that one loss going into the Ohio State game. But losing the way that they did to both UCLA and Northwestern was honestly embarrassing, both on the offense and defensive front. So I think that not only is James Franklin gone, but Jim Knowles is gone. We'll see what they do with Kolanecki, offense coordinator, because let's be honest with you, as much as talent as Penn State has on offense, the offense has really been lackluster. I know Drew Aller's out for the season with an injury, but you still have the two-headed monster at the running back position. But outside of that, I think looking at the candidates, I think early on a lot of smoke has been on Matt Rule. However, I don't really like that, especially with the way Nebraska has been looking. I mean, Matt Rule, I think that a lot of people just bring his name up because he won at two tough places, right, with Temple and Baylor. However, what has he really shown you? It feels like he's just would be another James Franklin 2.0. I think the one guy that would really make a lot of sense is Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach of Missouri. I mean, I just feel like Missouri brings that offensive firepower that Penn State really needs. It feels like Penn State's offense has been stuck in the 1900s, the way that this offense is built, because you have a lot of talent every single year on the offensive side of the ball. The defense was always there for you, but I feel like the offense was lacking at times. So obviously, Lane Kiffin wouldn't be another name, but I just feel like he's going to stay in SEC country, whether he stays at Ole Miss, where he goes to Florida. But I think that my number one pick, I mean, obviously you could give Marcus Freeman a call just to see if he leaves Notre Dame to go to Penn State. But really outside of that, I would look towards Eli Drinkwitz.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to Matt Rule, and the hype around Matt Rule is because of Matt Rule being a linebacker for Penn State in the 90s and being a former player. Is it the time to bring back somebody who's a former player? Your current acting interim head coach is a former player that played under Joe Paterno in the 90s. So there's a lot, that's a homer pick, it feels like, in that department. Matt Rule doesn't seem like the right guy for me. If you're trying to rebuild that program, not necessarily rebuild, it's more of a reload. I mean, as good of a school as that is, and as well as they've done with the talent they have, it's really just a reload. I mean, there's going to be plenty of in the transfer portal world. There's no such thing as a rebuild anymore. It's more of a reload. You go and find 7 or 8, 9, 10 guys, offense, defense, and you're set. I mean, you can make a big run. So we've seen that happen all over the country. So I think that Eli Drinkwitz is a really good pick. Offensively, I think it would be a fantastic pick. Penn State's defense, I think Drinkwitz would die to have Penn State's, defense in the history and legacy of that defense would be huge. And it kind of brings a new flair to it too. I think he would do well in a traditional program like that. There's a lot to be said, what he would say, at something like that. but Penn State's looking like they're willing to offer out a lot of money for this job. Another one is Lane Kiffin, has been kind of stirred around a little bit. You and I both, I think, have the thought process that he's not leaving the SEC anytime soon, which I would agree with. I think Florida, I think his name is all over that Florida job, and finding his way to his third, SEC school, big SEC school, and he's just going to kind of jump around there. And I think that it makes more sense for him to go there than Penn State. Knowing his recruiting and such. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting situation with them. Now that I think Florida's going to go after, as far as Florida goes for coaching, I think they're going to go after Lane Kiffin. I fully think that they're going to throw as much money at Lane Kiffin as possible there. And Napier should have been gone at least a year ago. And it's just, it was a little late for that. And so there's some coaches out there that have a chance with a job like that, and we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, we're obviously going to wait until the end of the season to figure all that out and see who's going to take the reins there. But I don't think anybody expected to see what we've seen so far through the first 8 weeks of the season. So with that being said, let's get to our risers and fallers. Tyler, hit me with your riser and faller for week number 8.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the riser first out of the ACC. That's going to be the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I know that you are very high on this team. You had in preseason in the ACC championship game. I think that the way that the ACC is really setting up, it could be a wacky one. We could see like Georgia Tech versus Louisville if Miami gets another loss in the conference. But Georgia Tech, I know that it hasn't been pretty in some of their wins, but you're undefeated, and that's really all I care at this point. I mean, you've seen Florida State crumble after their week 1 win against Alabama, and then the same with Clemson. They just lost against SMU. I know that Kate Klubnik didn't play in that game, but I mean, Clemson has just been a bad football team this season. But I've really been impressed with Georgia Tech, and I definitely think that Brent Key is definitely going to, I could even see him be a candidate for the jobs that we just talked about. I definitely think that both schools, if they miss on maybe some of their elite candidates that they have, I think that Brent Key could definitely be on that list. But Georgia Tech right now has to be the favorite to get to the ACC championship because look at their schedule. I think that's really set up nice. I don't even think that they have to play like any of the big top schools. Really, the only like domino that I could see falling is Georgia at the end of the season. And Georgia has looked beatable at times. The Tennessee game, they didn't play well in the first half. The same this past week against Ole Miss. It was a high-scoring shootout. Ole Miss jumped on them. So Georgia Tech can really do the same. I mean, you go look at last year. It took 7 damn overtimes to beat this Georgia Tech team. So Georgia Tech is my riser. The faller, I'm going to go to the group of 5 here. I'm going to go to Memphis. And Memphis, to me, this was just a bad loss, especially for a team looking for playoff aspirations. I mean, losing to UAB, they just fired Trent Dilfer. It's an interim coach, and it feels like that's been the story of the season. The interim coach walks in, and they immediately get a win. You saw it with UCLA with their 3 straight wins, and now you're seeing it with UAB. But Memphis, even as their fallers, they are now out of the top 25. They have a real good opportunity this weekend to beat a real good South Florida team that just boat raced. I think they boat raced North Texas just a couple of weeks ago. So South Florida's really been looking good. So it feels like the winner of that, obviously Tulane will have something to say about that, but it feels like the winner of this game feels pretty good. And we might even see this matchup again in the conference championship. So Memphis is my faller, but that doesn't mean they have an opportunity this Saturday to get to really fix what happened this past week against UAB.
Yeah, absolutely. So with mine, I went ACC, SEC, and 2 teams that are right together. You mentioned one of them. My faller of the week is going to be Miami. Miami just did not look good against Louisville in Miami. I mean, that's kind of one of those situations that Louisville just came in as the underdog and just went crazy. They looked really good. Quarterback play looked really good. It's just kind of one of those situations where they ran into a hot Miller Moss and Louisville. I mean, that just it is what it is at that point. They were coming off of a loss and they really want to get back on the map. So that's why that's why Miami is my faller. Still in the top 10 though at 9. My riser of the week is followed up right. They're right below them at 10, and that's Vandy. Vandy getting a huge win at home against LSU. Vegas had them as the favorite anyway, and Diego Pavia went crazy. I mean, if anybody is thinking of anyone else leading the Heisman race than Diego Pavia right now, you're crazy. I mean, he is pound for pound the best looking quarterback in the country. And it's like flashes of Johnny Manziel. It's got all of that written all over it, but he has way better accuracy. I mean, he can dial it up and throw it deep. He knows he can feel the pocket presence and just get out of the pocket and run and make big plays. That's what you need from a guy, in the SEC especially, in an underdog team like Vandy. So props to Vandy for 6-1 and being number 10 in the country. Keep it going. I know they have a tough one. They're at home again. They got a tough one against Missouri. I think if you win this game, a couple of teams are going to beat themselves up above you. You're going to find yourself in the top 7, potentially 7 or 8. That would be crazy to think about Vandy being up that high. But look at Georgia Tech; they're sitting at 7 right now. And like you said, Georgia Tech. I mean, their toughest game they're going to play is Georgia at the end of the year. Let's say they run the table. I mean, they're playing at home this year against Georgia, and anything can happen in that.
Well, that game's actually Mercedes-Benz
Stadium. It's a Mercedes-Benz.
For some reason, they put it at a neutral site. It doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
It should be at Georgia Tech this year, considering they played in Athens last year. But it is what it is. But I mean, that's even a better advantage for Georgia Tech, to be honest with you. In that particular game, I honestly think that they run the table. That's crazy to see something like that happen, but it's huge for them to run the table and just be a part of the playoff group, and be an ACC representative, and in a at-large playoff to be where they're at is crazy. So it looks really good. Even Indiana at 2 is crazy. So a lot of games there. So let's get into our games of the week, Tyler. So I mentioned kind of this one coming up for Vandy, and that is Missouri at Vanderbilt. We talked about Eli Drinkwitz a little bit. His offense gets transfer quarterback in from Penn State, Bo Pribula. He's been tearing it up. Of course, Hardy in the backfield has been crazy for them as well. Another Heisman Trophy type candidate there as well. Both of them, quarterback and running back, are Heisman Trophy contenders. So a lot to be said for how well Missouri's offense has been. Struggles with Alabama there at the end. I think that's inexperience. I don't know how you feel about that. And if Vandy can take advantage of that, they have the experience. They're the oldest team in the SEC on paper by players by far. Is that something that they're ready for something like that, or is Missouri's offense a very different Tigers type offense?
Yeah, definitely think you bring up some good points. And also, this is a lot of stakes at this game because the winner of this one really sets up, Missouri still has some tough games after this one. Let to face off against Texas A&M. Good thing for them. That'll be a home game. But really outside of that Texas A&M game, I think that Missouri could really run the table. They do have Arkansas at the end of the season. Vandy, however, after this game, they have to play Tennessee and Texas. So those are 2 big dogs. So it feels like Vandy is more pressured to win this game if they do want to make the playoff. Missouri, I mean, I'm not going to say like they can afford this one because they definitely have some tough games going on. But honestly, 2 evenly matched teams, both on offense and defense, like you mentioned. The quarterback matchup is definitely going to be insane. Bo Pribula versus Diego Pavia. That's definitely 2 of the better dual threat quarterbacks in all of the SEC. And then the running backs, Cedric Alexander versus Ahmad Hardy. I think the wide receivers, even the tight end, Eli Stowers. So they got, along with Diego Pavia in that package with New Mexico State. Vandy's defense, though, they have really out-physicaled, Alabama in the first quarter. And then LSU, they out-physicaled pretty much the whole entire game. I feel like the final score was 31-24, but was it really that close? No, it wasn't really because Vandy really dominated that one. I was really impressed with Vandy's offensive line. I think that's definitely going to be a struggle for Missouri moving forward. And obviously Vandy's going to have to deal with Ahmad Hardy. So I definitely think this could be either high scoring or this could be like a 24-20 type of game. But give me the home team. I'm not going to bet against Diego Pavia anymore. I know that on SEC Talk, I've pretty much been betting against him pretty much every single week. But I'm going to go with the home team here. I think that Vandy, they are coming off of a physical game against LSU Missouri. It's coming off of the bye week, so they're going to be more rested up here. But I'm going to go with the Commodores here in a great game. I'll say 28-24. The Vandy that gets it done.
Yeah, good pick there. Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting game. These teams are so similar. It's crazy. The quarterbacks are similar, running backs are similar, receivers are similar. I think difference though is I think Vandy's secondary is going to be tested a lot in this game, opposite of what the LSU game was. They weren't extremely tested downfield. They played really good coverage against LSU last week. Yeah. I think that they're going to struggle to keep up with Kevin Coleman this weekend, and I just feel that that's going to be really hard to balance that and Hardy in the backfield and Prabula who can get out of the pocket and run. So there's a lot of different variables there. Last week, Nussmeier's not really a running quarterback. Their weapons downfield they didn't take advantage of. Run game they struggled. So there's pieces there I think that Missouri can go towards. If the run game's not working, they have receivers who can go out and make big plays, and a quarterback who can develop plays downfield. So I in my opinion, I think Missouri takes full advantage of Vandy kind of coming in after a physical game, like you said. I'm going to go with the Tigers to take this one. I'm going to go 31-28. I think it's a three-point game when it comes down to it. And I think Missouri can hold them off and get a big win. And it sets up really good for them after that. So both of these teams, this is a big turning point in the season. I don't think anybody saw a ranked top 15 matchup happening between these two teams. But make our picks there. We split both ways. Let's go over to the Big 12. BYU, they're headed over to Ames. They're heading over to face the Iowa State Cyclones. This is 7-0. BYU 5-2. Iowa State. Iowa State tough, physical defensive team. BYU is all out offense, air raid pretty much at this point. And this is a really good, I think, even matchup. I like this matchup that we never used to see in the Big 12 that we're getting. So I am really happy about this. So the difference for me is Bachmeier. It's night and day with both of these offenses. Rocco Beck's been there forever. He might as well retire there. But yeah, I think that BYU is so strong offensively that can Iowa State stop them that many times? I mean, we've seen BYU control football games, control the clock. I mean, they are time of possession. They are by far, way far above their opponents. Iowa State, obviously, probably the best team defensively in the Big 12 for the last few years. I just don't know. It's really hard because BYU has struggled in some games coming up to this. I mean, a 3-point win against a not very good Utah team, and a double overtime win against an Arizona team. It's kind of like they're just one step ahead. But I'm going to go with the underdog in this. I think the home team's going to take the cake. I'm going to go Iowa State to take it. I think there's going to probably be a big turnover. It's another close game in the Big 12, in my opinion. It's just how it's going to be. Lower scoring for me, I think it's probably 21-17 game here. I'm going to go with Iowa State.
Yeah, it feels like there's been a lot of lower scoring games. You're seeing a lot of good defenses. I mean, we saw the upset last weekend, Arizona State taking down Texas Tech. So we, after like a couple of weeks of the season, we thought that this was just going to be a Texas Tech runaway. Same with BYU. You mentioned the close wins, and it just has so many similarities to what we saw last year of Arizona State that they're just getting by with some of these wins. But Barrett Bachmeier has definitely been a sensational quarterback for BYU. I know that you mentioned Rocco Beck. He's been there for who knows how long at this point. But, yeah, these are two of the best defenses going at it. I know that BYU is a heavy favorite, but honestly, I agree with you. This is just a real good spot for Iowa State. I mean, they started off the season very hot, and they had two close losses in the conference. Actually, one of them coming to Iowa. They honestly should have won that game against Iowa if they would have made that short field goal. Actually, no, they won that game. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. They had their two losses in the conference, but it just feels like, I mean, I've seen this story before. A ranked team coming into Ames. We know how hostile of an environment that could get. So I think it's going to be a defensive game, like you mentioned. BYU just got into a bare knuckle fight against their rival in the Holy War against Utah. So that's definitely something to look to look forward to and keep in mind heading into this game. But I don't think that's really going to phase them. But this is going to be a lower scoring game. I'll go 21-17. Give me the Cyclones to pull off the upset and really make this a chaotic Big 12 down the stretch of the season here.
So we agree here on the upset because Vegas agrees with us apparently in this game. So there's quite a bit of stir up about this game in the Big 12. So our last game in the Big 12, let's get to it. This one has the potential for some stir up too. Houston looked terrible at one point this season. They looked abysmal. Let's turn it around here. They're 6-1. They're not ranked. It's a chance for them to be ranked potentially with a win here on the road in Tempe. Arizona State's just hanging around. They're just hanging around, like you said. And 5-2, couple of decent wins. Vegas is showing that a night game in Tempe's going to be nearly impossible for Houston to win. 7.5 points is the line currently. And I kind of believe it. I feel like this is a tough game for Houston to win on the road. That environment's going to be really, really tough for them to win a game of this magnitude. I mean, toughest game, obviously, Houston's only loss is Texas Tech, who ended up losing again.
And Texas Tech destroyed them.
And Texas Tech killed them. I mean, that's the thing about it. And then you look at the other side of it, Arizona State's loss from 2 weeks ago is to a really bad Utah team that hung up 42 on them.
And they lost Mississippi State.
Right, and they lost to Mississippi State. And so there's a couple of weird games there. And ASU's riding a big win off of Texas Tech. So just last week. So a lot of variables in this one. I trust Sam Leavitt more than Connor Weigman. I
think there's enough sample size to agree.
There's enough there to say that. So, yeah, I'm going to go with ASU. Give me the Sun Devils. I love them being at home at night. But I still think it's a game that can be within 2 touchdowns. I don't expect it to be a blowout, but I expect Arizona State to get a pretty good win.
Yeah, I think the narrative this weekend is that the SEC is really taking it by storm this weekend. But let's be honest with you, the Big 12 is also delivering because these 2 games where we're talking about BYU, Iowa State, Houston, Arizona State can really decide what 2 teams are going to be playing in Arlington because Texas Tech, even with the loss, still has it. I mean, Utah at this point, they're pretty much dead. I mean, that was definitely a rough pick by us. If we could change it, I would probably do it. But Houston, like you mentioned, they had a lot of close calls. It's like you don't know what you're going to give this team. They're going to get blown out, or they'll have a game like Oregon State, who doesn't even – well, they have their one win. They beat, like, Lafayette, who's not even to really be respectable. Yeah, Connor Weigman has definitely had some good games this season. And Willie Fritz, I got to give credit to him. It was a rough – year 1 for him coming from Tulane to Houston, but year number 2, he's really figured it out. And this defense has really put it together. That's why they get to 6-1. Arizona State, too, a little bit of a slow start for them, like you mentioned. They did lose to Mississippi State, and then they lost to Utah, but they didn't even have Sam Leavitt in that game. And without Sam Leavitt, this offense just looks completely abysmal. But with Sam Leavitt back, I definitely trust Arizona State in the spot. Coming off of that big win against Texas Tech, I don't really see a letdown here. I don't think they're going to overlook Houston like they did like last year, because this was a close game last season. This was one of Arizona State's like get-by game for on their way to the Big 12 championship. So Arizona State, we talked about them. They have 2 losses, but that one loss came outside the conference. They only still have one conference loss, like you mentioned, that came against Utah. So I honestly think Arizona State makes a statement. I know that Houston is 6-1, but let's be real. I just don't think that they're not even close to where Arizona State is talent-wise on offense and defense. So give me Arizona State to win this one 34-24. It's a double-digit win, and Arizona State starts to get back in the top of this Big 12 race, which is absolutely looking chaotic right now.
Yeah, it is. A lot going on, and a lot going on chaotically in the betting world.
Yes.
Nothing has looked right so far this season, it seems like, on paper. Thought I had a win last week, ended up hitting 5 of my 7 legs, and I lose because of a crazy.
This is a good note too with Tyson out.
Yeah,
Arizona State still getting 7. That's got to mean something. With their best wide receivers to still them being getting 7 points. That's got to. I think Vegas knows something was about to happen here.
Yeah, there's something that history talks when it comes to Arizona State, that wild and wacky night games happen there, and this seems like one of those. I could see it being a high scoring shootout. I actually could. And two teams that are just, it's going to be who's going to make it, down the field the most times. I mean, it is what it's down to. Defense is going to be non-existent, it feels like, in a game like this. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Arizona State wins. I think they're back in the talk. I don't think they're out of anything being at 24. They're very much in the conversation in the Big 12, like you mentioned, for that road to Arlington. Let's get into our best bets here. I guess I'll lead it off here. I'm going to jump over to the Big Ten. We haven't talked about the Big Ten tonight, so I'm going to jump over to the Big Ten a little bit. And it's Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. They're headed over to Iowa City to face off against the Hawkeyes. Hawkeyes coming off of a come-from-behind win against Penn State. Minnesota's been kind of treading through water, it seems like. Iowa's the 9.5-point favorite. I can't remember the last time Iowa was a 9.5-point favorite, and I'm not going to believe it this weekend either. I'm taking Minnesota at the plus 9.5. I think they'll keep this game close enough. At the most, a touchdown, in my opinion. I don't think either of these teams are going to be offensive juggernauts this weekend. They never have been, and they never will be. So I like the Golden Gophers at the plus 9.5.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. I would be shocked if Iowa just destroys Minnesota, because Minnesota's offense has really been good, and that it's like two sneaky 5-2 teams that nobody in the Big Ten's talking about. Everybody's talking about Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon right now, but I think those two teams won't necessarily win the Big Ten, but I definitely think they can make some noise and maybe pull off an upset. Who knows? But I'm going to go to the SEC here. It's a battle of 3-4 versus 2-5. Yes, I know how exciting that is. This is why they put this game at 11:45 on the SEC Network. But give me Arkansas minus 2.5. I'm going to roll by Petrino. I'm done with Auburn. If you watch SEC Talk, I've been trying to lift Auburn into be one of my teams, just sneak a cup on people. And that just hasn't happened. They blew it against Georgia, and they blew it against Missouri this past weekend. So this line has now bumped all the way down. It was 4.5 that I looked at a couple hours ago. Now it's down to 2.5. So take Arkansas 2.5. This offense is elite. They have Taylor Green. Mike Watson Jr. is going to run all over this Auburn team. So if Arkansas can score, have you seen Auburn's offense? Will they be able to keep up? The answer is no. So give me Arkansas minus 2.5. I think that this is the game that Hugh Freeze gets fired.
Yeah, I think a lot can happen for Auburn this weekend on and off the field. So yeah, I'm going to keep it in the SEC. I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and so Ole Miss is headed to Boomer Sooner country to face off against Oklahoma. I think Ole Miss learned something about their team in their group last week in Athens. Even with a loss there, I think that they learned how to cope with that, how to battle, how to fix things in a road environment. Georgia's a tougher road environment than Oklahoma, in my opinion. Oklahoma did not look good a couple of weeks ago against Texas. They just haven't looked right, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks. I think Ole Miss being at plus 5.5 is crazy. I think the safe bet is to take Ole Miss at the plus 5.5. If you're feeling great about it, then take them money line. It just seems like everything, either the plus 5.5, the over at 52.5. We saw Georgia and Ole Miss blow that out of the water. And then Ole Miss money line. It just seems crazy, especially 5.5 on the over. But
yeah, did you see that? He's he literally like he's gonna tell his players about the rumors of the Florida job. Hey man, that's what Lane does.
I don't
Do you
think
think that's
anybody
gonna
knows what
throw the team
Lane's
off?
thinking. I
Like,
don't
do you
think.
think it's gonna get in their head like before the game? Because Oklahoma's no slouch.
Yeah, I just think like Lane is so nobody knows what's coming next out of his mouth type guy, and he can just let it fly. I think at any point, like we see him on College Game Day, and he just lets out something that nobody's expecting. And yeah, I think he could. Like I put nothing past Lane to say that. Um, he's going to come out and say something about going to Florida, and they want him to go to Florida and everything. And I think he's crazy enough to say it, but then at the end of the season, he can take the job. Like I think that's the funny part about it. Saw it in college baseball. So with Vitello,
Yeah.
he's like always like I'm not leaving, and then a week later we see him and he's going to San Francisco for the Giants job. So anything can happen. Money talk, especially in the SEC. So yeah, I think there's a big enough bag out there for Lane Kiffin to take that and go to Gainesville. But yet to be said what he will say this weekend. I'm sure we'll find out. But of course, that's it for the week for a rundown. We will be back for week 10. Going to be a lot to recap, some good conference matchups, probably a few upsets in there. That's why I picked an upset or two there. I think it's probably likely this weekend at this point. So we will be back for week 10. We're going to get to double-digit weeks here and a lot closer to the end of the season than we are to the beginning. So we'll get down to the end and hopefully see what teams can come out on top and make their way in the top 12 there for the playoff. But we'll see you guys again for week 10. Thanks for joining us. See y'all.